Welcome to the Resilience Catalyst podcast. My name is Joyce Odidison. I'm your host, and I'm so excited that you're here with us today. We are talking about what happens when high performers keep going on. They just keep producing, keep leading, keep making decisions. But underneath their health, their resilience is being depleted. My guest today is Paula Houlihan, and she's founder of Paula Houlihan International. Paula works with high performers and organizations that want to defeat burnout, those who want to retain their best people, and also build healthier ways to succeed. I love this conversation because Paula tells about the choices and not the easy choices we make when life is calm, but the choices we make when we are under pressure, tired, overload, or reacted. For almost 30 years, I have seen leaders and teams struggle with this. People are still performing, but they are not always well. They are making decisions all day long, carrying pressure, responding to demands, and sometimes they do not realize their resilience anchors are being weakened. So today, I'm so glad to have Paula on the show because she's going to talk about something that I care about, right? Is making that decisions when there is overload, being able to succeed without being hijacked by stress. And later in the show, I will share a little bit about my upcoming book, Cracking the Code in Your Resilience, and the work we're doing to help leaders and organizations build resilience. I can't wait for you to meet Paula. Let's get started. Paula Houlihan is a speaker, coach, founder of Paula Houlihan International. She works with high performers. Hello. They need us too, and organizations that reduce burnout, as well as to retain their top talent and create more sustainable success. So through her work, choice management, Paula has helped people understand thinking patterns behind their choices so they can stop reacting, regain control, and build a healthier relationship for success. Paula, welcome to the Resilience Catalyst podcast.
Thank you, Joyce. I'm very happy and honored to be here.
All right. So tell us a little bit about you. You know, when we look at your story, you describe as, helping those high achievers sort of recover or achieve their success and their wellness after they've done everything to probably sometimes handicap that. What are some of the strategies here?
Thank you. That's a great question. So there's several, but first and foremost, helping them understand that our brain is making choices for us most of the time, and we don't know that's happening. A couple of reasons we don't know that's happening. First and foremost, when our brain is making decisions for us, we're not unconscious. We know it. We know what our brain is thinking. We just think we're doing the choosing. And what research is showing in neuroscience and behavioral economics is that as much as 95% of the time, you aren't making those choices consciously. Your brain is deciding that for you. So understanding that first, that explains why we get stressed out and overwhelmed, because things aren't always working in our favor because we're not always choosing consciously. Secondly, I show them how to interrupt that reactive pattern. It's really important to know that when we get under stress or when we have high demands on our schedule, there's parts of our brain that light up and there's parts of our brain that shut down. And guess which part shuts down? The executive center. So understanding how our brain is working and why it's doing that is the first step in interrupting that reactive, or what I call autopilot reaction.
So when you talk about the high performing trap, tell us a little bit about how you came to understand that. Did you have an epiphany? What got you into those? So we all have something that drives us into a deeper work. What was yours?
Absolutely we do. And I know you do too. So I didn't start out to do this work. In my past life, I was a corporate senior claims specialist in the insurance industry. And I was in that industry for 15 years. What happened was, being in a high demand, high level, negotiation, exposure kind of an environment, I was under a lot of demands on my time and on my attention, a lot of stress. I was very successful, but I also found that I was always overriding myself, always pushing through. And Joyce, I've listened to your podcast. I know that you talk about this, how we get burned out because we think we're supposed to work harder, right? And I found myself sitting in a doctor's office, hoping that he would just give me a prescription so that I would, first of all, have more energy throughout the day because I was crashing. I was exhausted. And also to sleep better at night because, at night, what do? We think about all the things we didn't get done that day. So it's hard to sleep. And I ended up with a life-altering diagnosis that I did not expect. It completely blindsided me. My chronic stress took over and my body just couldn't support it anymore. And he told me that I needed to make some new choices or I probably would not be here in a year. So that got me to thinking a couple of things. First of all, I did not see it coming. So for those that are under a lot of demands and stress and overwhelm, be mindful of what your body's telling you. The signs were there. I just wasn't paying attention. Right? And secondly, the way he phrased it, I had to make some changes and I had to make different choices. That hit me because I did not choose this.
Exactly.
Right. And so often we feel like things happen to us. And what I've discovered since then in my years of research, and I went back to school, finished a psychology degree. I really wanted to understand how I'm making these choices that led me here. And what I discovered was it wasn't that I was consciously choosing it, but that was the consequence of the choices I had been making that I didn't know I was making. Yes. Because remember what I said, our brain is programmed and sometimes makes those decisions for us.
Yes. It's just such a story to recognize that we are doing things and we don't even know we're doing it. And resilience this really lands well for me because of the work that I do. And I think there's so much similarity because I talk about resilience depletion. And I talk about resilience as a currency for life because when it's gone, it's gone. Like you, I remember going to, it wasn't my family doctor, it was my naturopathic doctor. And I was like, I feel like the candle is going out. I feel like I can't keep the candle going. And that's when I started really understanding nutrition and how to nourish because I was born with only one kidney and I only have one adrenal gland. As a result, that's when I started understanding how to nourish your body and right foods. And so often people say, Joyce, I don't know how to feed you. I'm like, don't worry about feeding me. I'm not underfed. I'm well fed. I'm just very particular about what I put in my body. And we sometimes think, I could just do this, or I could just do that. But those choices add up.
Yes, they do. And how many times do we eat on the run or skip a meal or cut back on our sleep because we think we need more time? I love the work that you do on resilience and creating a resilient environment and that checklist that you have and the foundation that you have. It's just so needed in the work that is out there right now.
It is. And when we have those stories, it's so important for us to share those stories because it's so important for people who are on their journey to remember, hey, this is a possibility. This is what I went through and you can go through that. So you talk a little bit, you share your story. What do you see in high performers that they often miss? Like, what do you think is one or two things that you're seeing for that person on that journey right now that you can point out and say, hey, pay attention to this? What would that be?
Yes. Perfect question. And I will answer. I'm going to piggyback on something you said that's so important that, we share our stories so that people know because so many people don't want to share their stories because they think they're the only one. I know I thought I was the only one. I'm sure you did too. So I love that we're sharing this work. So the thing that they overlook that high performers think they need, they're looking at the symptoms. And in the 7 years that I've been doing executive coaching, it comes down to two things. First of all, they think they just need more time. Hands down, they all think they just need more time. There's just not enough hours in the day. And the second thing that I see that quietly repeats itself, every single one of them thinks they're the only one struggling. And so that's why I piggybacked on that. That's why it's so important to get this out because guess what? High performers don't like to admit they need help. They don't like to admit that they're struggling because somehow we feel like it's like a sign of weakness or that we can't handle
that image.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when they realize, no, this is prevalent, like they're just surprised.
Yeah. It's so counterintuitive, right? Because they get praise for being dependable, being productive, being capable, all the things that good qualities amazing qualities. But when we have depleted the resilience anchors underneath, it's just a matter of time before everything keeps crumbling.
Absolutely.
And so important. So when you work with high performers and they're resistant because they know what they're doing. We're all brilliant and we think we have the
Yes.
answer. How do you move that resistance? What are some strategies you use around that resistance?
So most of it comes through conversation. It's amazing what people say behind the words. And so I listen to what they're not saying and tease that out. And they're always surprised that I know these things about them when actually they're telling me. They just don't realize they're sharing the information. So, when they say they need more time, I'll ask them, well, how are you using your time?
Yeah.
Have you ever tracked how you use your time?
Yeah.
What is it that you're basing that opinion on? And they can't answer that question. And then so I'll say, well, let's track your time for the next week and see what you're actually using your time for. And they come to realize when they're faced with the data of what they've tracked, I spent a lot of time in meetings. Oh, I take a lot of phone calls. It takes me 20 minutes to get back to what I was doing. Oh, I'm responding to other people's emergencies. And now all of a sudden the light bulb will go up, and that kind of helps with the resistance. Whatever it is that they think they're facing, we all see the symptom. We see the exhaustion. We see the lack of time. We see the feeling of overwhelm. We see the busy schedule. We feel the stress. But what we don't look at and what we don't understand is what is actually causing that. So we spend so much time trying to fix the symptoms and not understanding what the underlying cause is. The lack of chipping away at their resilience foundation and the chipping away of their choices without realizing that they're giving away their power.
Yes. And you talk a lot about decision fatigue as well. Tell us a little bit more about that for our audience, because what I see for myself as a conflict analyst going into the workplace, dealing with these challenges and doing workplace wellness, I see some decisions and I'm like, you did that? You made this decision? Because it's the brain, there's nothing cognitively left because they're worn out. So tell me a little bit about your piece and let's talk about that for our audience.
Yes. So the brain is designed beautifully to work on autopilot.
Yes.
And by that, I mean those unconscious parts of our brain that are driving decisions. And if we didn't have it, we would never get out of the house on any day if we had to make all of our choices consciously. We'd have to learn how to walk again. We'd have to learn how to tie our shoes. Like there's just no way we'd advance. So something to understand about the brain, the executive center of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, it has a limited bandwidth. It can only make so many decisions and focus and assess information for a period of time. And then it gets depleted. Which is why we have this autopilot part that supports it and runs it so that our executive center can make those important decisions and can influence the autopilot. So when we have decision fatigue, that is a physical, emotional, and mental sign that you've reached that bandwidth. And it is a thing. We've all experienced it when we just can't focus anymore. We can't think clearly anymore. And the executive center of the brain, that prefrontal cortex, also requires a lot of fuel to operate. Again, not sustainable in the long term because we can't eat enough to keep it running constantly. So that's the thing that really supports and drives that decision fatigue. And when we have things chipping away at our resilience foundations, like you talk about, and when we have constant barrages of interrupting our focus, it just chips away and makes it even harder to maintain that conscious focus and decision. Which is why it takes so long to get back to a project if you're interrupted, because you need to get back into that thought pattern and where you were when it got interrupted.
And, I think this is a good bridge to when you look on that because it takes a lot of energy. We don't realize how much energy the brain takes, the most energy in our body, right? So the brain, the heart, those big organs, they take a lot of energy. And the brain is the operating system for everything. Nothing can operate in the body without the brain. So every function that happens in our body has to have some brain signal or some brain activity for it to perform. As simple as swallowing your spit or going to the bathroom, your brain is participating in that process. And I think we forget that is happening. And when we have all these as you said, interruption, that those times that we are not focused, when we're overwhelmed, probably we were multitasking, because that is one of the biggest issues for us, I think, with technology. We try
Yeah.
to multitask. We try to do 10 100 things one time. And
Well,
it's
I'm
it's so
glad you bring
funny.
that up. Yes, I'm glad you bring that up because here's the thing, we
Yes,
can't multitask.
we
Our brain can
cannot.
only focus on one thing at a time. If you think you're
Yes.
multitasking, it just means your brain's really quick at jumping from one thing to another. That's not productive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is why I believe we have to stop, talking about burnout like something that happened to us by accident, or burnout fell from the sky. It is a choice we're making every day to do the things that we're doing. And I love that you're talking about choice, bringing back that consciousness and get us out of that. Everything is a disease that happened to us. No, these social elements in our life, these social phenomena we're facing are all conscious choices. Maybe not ours, maybe somebody else's, maybe your boss, but we're choosing to participate. At any point in time, we can choose not to participate in what is taking our energy and depleting our resilience. But I think most people are afraid to say, I will no longer participate in this.
Especially high achievers,
Yes.
because we feel judged if we're not following the status quo. We
Mm,
feel we're constantly comparing ourselves and we have that nice high bar, right? That we're
mhm.
always trying to reach. And that bar,
Yes.
we may not have even said it. Maybe someone else said it for us and we think we just have to go there.
Hmm.
It's just that's why awareness is so important
Yes.
because we do make choices that we don't know we're making because our brains just assume that that's what we want.
Mhm.
And that's what we've programmed it to do. That's what our culture has programmed it. The organization we're in has programmed it to respond that way. So we don't even second guess it unless we stop and have that moment of awareness.
I love that you talk about awareness, because that's why I created the Resilience Intelligence platform. And
Yes.
clients are saying to me, Joyce, this is the only place I can go and just look at what's happening in my life and what's going on in my brain and connect the two. And that is so important, because without awareness, what can you do? You're a victim of everything out there. When you're
Yeah.
aware, you can make conscious choices. That deep immersive awareness, that experience of seeing what you're doing, coming face to face and having that mirror. And I think that's what we do as coaches, having that
Yeah.
mirror for our clients, being able to say, this is what I'm seeing. It is so liberating for
Mhm.
us as high performers, for clients. And I love that you're helping them to see that this is a choice.
Yes. And that's why the work that we do is so important because most people, unless they're taught how to be self aware, don't know where
Mhm.
to begin. Because again, when it feels like everything's happening to you, what do? We try to do? We try to control what's outside of us. And that doesn't
Yes.
work real well. I don't know about you,
No,
but that's
we have no.
it doesn't work real well. So that's why I love the work that you and I are doing because it's
Yes.
helping bring that point of it's not that we have to work harder and push through and sacrifice ourselves. We can be successful and still be healthy. We can be successful and have happy relationships. We can be successful and have time to also do things outside of work. And what we've discovered and what research shows is that when we have that healthy part of our life going, the
Oh,
work part and the productivity gets
yeah,
so much better. Yeah.
it is. It is. There are 9 dimensions, not just one. I'm still
Yes.
surprised when I talk to people and I talk about 9 dimensions. They're like, really? There are nine? I was like, how are you living? I think we take it for granted because we've had the awareness. But there are a lot of people who still don't have that awareness,
Yes.
still don't realize that their life is a system of multidimensional parts, and how we treat, how we behave, how we execute in one part will determine the success of the other parts of our lives. And
Yeah.
and yes, when that result shows up, when we get that diagnosis, we're shocked because we didn't choose the diagnosis, but
Yes.
we're choosing step one, step two, step three, step four, step five, not being aware that it will lead to something like that.
Absolutely.
That
And
is.
yes, and when we don't make a choice, when we postpone or procrastinate, that's still a choice, which has
Mhm.
consequences and outcomes as well.
I want you to explain one part. Why
Yes.
is time management not enough? because a lot of people go to time management. They're like, I just need to manage my time. I just need to ensure that, like you said, having that time and putting them through. But just talk about why it's not enough, because some people still get stuck on it's time, it's the time, it's the time.
Yes, yes. So that's circling perfectly back to how we opened our interview. They
Mhm.
think that time is the problem. And remember when I said if we feel like something's happening to us, we try to control what's outside of us. So if
Mhm.
time is happening to us and time is the problem, then we must control our time. I have yet to meet anyone who has controlled their time.
Yes.
Because when we think about how the brain operates and we have habits and patterns and default decisions that are constantly driving our choices, if we have a pattern of wanting to please other people or wanting to help other people, let's say that's your pattern. I don't care what you have on your schedule. If someone comes to you and they need your help, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to help them. You're going to set aside what you're working on and you're going to help them. Or let's say you have a belief system that I have to answer the phone every time it rings at work, because if I don't answer the phone, I've somehow let them down. Or you have a company policy that you have to answer
Mhm.
the phone.
Yeah.
So the phone rings. What happens to your schedule? It gets set aside
Mhm.
until you finish the phone call. And I don't know about you, Joyce, but when I was in my previous life as a corporate senior claims specialist, fires always came through the telephone
Mhm.
because people had emergencies that weren't my emergencies that suddenly now landed on my lap. That
Mhm.
messes with our schedule too. So
Mhm.
there are time management systems out there that are helpful and can get results. Some are better than others.
Mhm.
But when it comes down to, are you going to adhere to that? It's almost impossible because we have so many other factors driving our decisions. And it's not about how we're using our time. It's how we're choosing to use our time that determines how well we use that time. So that's why I say that time management isn't the solution. It's a tool that's helpful. But
Mhm.
again, it's addressing the symptom, not the
Yes,
underlying
not the
cause.
problem. I love this because as you were talking, I remember working with this HR group, right? This is a large organization, multi-departmental. They have about 300 HR officers. And here working with the team of HR providers, and they're telling me, we have no time. We have so much to do. We can't get our work done. So when I did a little bit of examination of what they would do it, so this person would have a caseload of like 300, and she would answer every call because that's what the organization's policy
Mhm.
was. You answer the call, you answer every email, and so the case just keeps piling.
Mhm.
And so when I got in, my job was to find out why they couldn't get their work done, why they were burning out. And I asked them, what is it you do with your day? Walking through and recognizing they hardly get time to touch their pile of courses. And some of the tasks I had them to do first was identify that your job is not to answer every call, because burnout often is treated like an individual problem, but
Yes.
organizations also make choices that create the pressure, right?
Yes.
And we have to challenge leaders back on what exactly is your intention. Because while these folks are answering the calls and the emails, the files never get managed. I had them set up an autoresponder on their emails. I had them set up an autoresponder on their phones that says, I am currently working on files during this time of the day. I will get back to you during these certain times of the day. I'm answering calls and emails, and I will be responding to you regarding your files. The call volume went down because people's stress level went down in the organization.
Mhm.
Because all of a sudden they're like, oh, they're working on files. Maybe it's my file. Maybe it's my file. Maybe she's gonna call about my file. And they were able at the end of the day to see, Joyce, I moved through all these 20 files, and they were actually able to see their work being done.
Yes.
And when their calls come, they would be like, oh, yeah, I'm working on yours next week, because they had all of a sudden the world became real, reality. They had structure. They could
Mhm.
say, your file is coming up next month. I'll have an answer. Before, they were just busy answering these calls. So organizations have a part to do in terms of their structure, in terms of the rules they come up with, because employees feel hesitant to push back.
Yeah.
Employees feel hesitant to challenge the status quo. when we come that, and I think that is such a good value for organizations to bring in experts like us who are outside and we can bring in that third lens. How do you expect to have highly successful, healthy people with this rule?
Yes.
How might this policy be impacting what your intentions are for your people? Because when you challenge like that, then they get new lens, new awareness as well, and they can make the changes.
Absolutely. And I love this conversation because it is so imperative that organizations understand the choices they're making that, as you so wisely pointed out, are contributing to the overwhelm, the burnout, and the lack of productivity. Because when we have rules in place that interrupt the work that the employees are there to be doing, then that just contributes and builds on it. There's a big difference between being busy and being productive. And you so artfully explained an example of how they were busy, but they weren't getting their work done. And I see that time and time and time again. That's why I love this conversation, because I really want to get the global conversation of what it means to be successful and what productivity truly is to change, because right now it's not going in a good direction. And as you said, burnout is not an individual problem. The World Health Organization recognizes it as a work-related syndrome that is globally prevalent, and it's growing despite all the time management and stress management activities that are out there and trainings that are out there. Burnout is growing and it's becoming a real problem.
Yes. And it's impacting organizations and the ability to retain those rock stars because
Yes.
employees are going. It's funny. We were talking to our daughter I think over the Canada long weekend, and she mentioned about leaders who are sending out messages on the weekend, right? And I mean, she's well grounded and has her boundaries up and everything
Right.
and knows what to, but the leaders don't realize what happened. And she has a team that she leads, and they don't realize what happens when you're sending all these messages on the weekend. People, there is that inference from your employees. Oh, I should be responding because my boss is sending this, my director is sending this. And so it's really important for them to recognize. And I said, maybe that person is just doing that because they want to empty their basket. It doesn't mean you have to respond. Monday is just as well to respond to these and say, looking at the messages you sent over the weekend, I am now back at my desk this morning and here are my responses. And I think it's really giving the employees that autonomy and giving them that ability to be able to say, these are my boundaries, these are the working hours, and these are the times when I'm expected to work. It's so important for leaders to recognize the impact that can have. Especially, we have a lot of people who they want to please, they want to show up, they want to, and most high achievers are like that. Your
Yes.
best people are the ones who are so passionate about the work. When you
Yes.
send them messages on the weekends and after 11 at night, they are thinking that they should be working. So as a leader, you have to think about the precedents you're setting.
Absolutely. And they're leading by example without
Yes.
even realizing they're making that choice.
Yes.
And whether they're emptying out their inbox or they're actually expecting a response, it does impact the morale of the team they're leading and the behavior of the team they're leading. And also looking at it from the leader's perspective, I find that middle management and directors, they're under even more stress because they're balancing everything they're responsible for in their role, plus they're balancing all the responsibilities of the teams they're leading. So they, more than anyone, need to adhere to here's my work hours, here's my non-work hours, and we talk about work-life balance. And it's not that we can balance work and life. We work, we live, we don't stop living just because we're at work. We should stop working when we're not at work so that we have that time, as we talked about, to do those other parts that allow us to refresh, to revitalize, to refill our cup, to re-energize, right? And enjoy life, because that's important too. If we don't enjoy our life, then we're not going to be very productive either.
No, life is so short.
Right?
We have to
Yes.
enjoy it. It's not
Yes.
all about work. We have to have that balance. There are 9 dimensions that we have to balance, and they're
Yes.
all
Yes.
equally important. The occupation is one dimension. And it shouldn't, I always say to employees, it should not over encompass the other 8 dimensions. They are all equally important. If one is broken, it
Mhm.
affects every other area of their life. Paula, this
Absolutely.
has been an amazing conversation. And I want to ask you if you have one thing you would say to the HR leader, to the leader who's watching, to the high performer in the organization who's trying to get to that next level and want to make a good impression and work hard, put in the long hours, what would you tell them?
So I'm going to repeat what we talked about earlier. First and foremost, understand how you are making your decisions.
Mhm.
Are you being proactive or reactive? That alone is a game changer. And one of the things I talk about in my book and I teach my clients is the importance of taking what I call as a power pause. So it's a moment in time. It's great if you can practice this when the stress is happening, but sometimes we have to practice it after the fact and then ease our way in, right? Because sometimes our brain has taken over in reaction mode. But in the moment, if we can just take a deep breath, and this is not just a breathing exercise, this is a mind reset exercise. When we take a deep breath, we do a couple of things. We immediately lower our heart rate. We immediately reduce our blood pressure. And the most important thing, we reactivate our executive center of our brain. And we suddenly give our brain enough space to see more than the thing that's triggering us.
Mhm.
Now we can make a conscious choice. And at this point, you can ask yourself, is how I'm responding going to help me achieve my goal or get me closer to where I want to be or how I want to be? And if it's not, that's the moment to choose differently. And if you can repeat that pattern until it becomes your habit and becomes your autopilot, you will find that you will have more time, more energy, and a very happy life and be successful.
That is so true. For our listeners, I want you to remember this. Your high performers may still be performing, but their resilience doesn't mean that their resilience is high. This is why I
Yes.
think it's so important for us to measure, map, and build resilience continuously because we never know when we're going to need it. It could be that diagnosis, it could be that accident, it could be a family member in trouble, and you still have to continue working, or you still need to have. And this is why we create the Wiz Resilience platform. And you talk about your book. So I want to invite you to talk a little bit about your book. I've got my 8th book coming out, Cracking the Code on Your Resilience. Tell us about your book and where can others, listeners, connect with you, Paula?
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Joyce. That's very sweet of you. And congratulations on your 8th book. So this is my first book that I've published.
Woo!
It
The
just
first is the
launched
hardest.
yes. And it just launched last week. So it's brand new, hot off the presses. It's called Hijacked, the surprising neuroscience behind the choices you think you're making and how to take back the controls. And so it covers a lot of what we discussed in our interview today and so much more. It can be found anywhere where books are sold. So wherever you are looking for books, you will find it. And right now it's in Kindle version, so ebook. It's also a paperback and a hardcover. I have an audiobook that will be coming out later, but we're still working on that part.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes. The audio takes more time. I know I have a bunch to
yes.
do too. Congratulations on your book.
I'm sorry?
Do you have a book tour coming up?
A book tour. I'm in the process of putting that together.
Good for you. I did the opposite. I'm starting my book tour. My team is already working on the book tour. We've got the
Fantastic.
book tour page. We are my book tour starts September. And I've already got a couple of bookings, and we're starting to move the train around to get us into 2027 for the book tour. I guess, but I'm a little ahead because this is book number 8. So I've learned a few tricks along the road. So I'm implementing them. So the book tour and the book release is August 12th. It's coming out in August 12th, which is my birthday.
Well,
And
happy birthday and
well,
congratulations. Oh my
yes.
goodness, so much to celebrate.
Yes, we have to celebrate life. And I think that's
Yes.
why this message is so important because life is so precious. It is so eventful. And we have no mirror that tells us what's going to happen tomorrow. We have only one thing to do. And it's interesting in my devotion this morning, it talks about only think of the things you need today and be grateful for today. Because too often we put so much, and I think that's one of the drivers for the high performers, because we are always trying to do for next year and the year after, and we only need today. So that was my piece for today. What is one piece you want to leave with the audience today from your own life and your work? One little piece they can take away.
I love ending on this note. My piece would be to remind yourself that you are making the best decisions that you can in the moment. Do we always make the right decision? No. Do we always react the best? No. But knowing that you are making the best choice that you can in the given moment with what you know and the situation that you are in, take some solace in that. My other thing that I like to tell people is that, and I love what you shared, that we don't know what's coming around the bend. We don't know if we'll be here tomorrow. I just had a colleague of mine pass away completely unexpectedly last week. I saw him a week before that. He's not here.
So sorry.
So things happen. And, yes, it's awesome to be successful. It's great to have that fabulous income and be able to do the things that we can do. But if you don't have time to enjoy it, if you don't take the time, if you don't choose to take the time to enjoy it, it goes by a lot faster than we think we can. So it's just, I keep a bottle of champagne in my refrigerator at all times because life always has something to celebrate. And I never want to be empty handed when it does.
I can't wait to Paula. It has been a great conversation for our listeners. Definitely, you have to check Paula out. We're going to have her website address at the end, and where you can find more about her new book. Thank you so much for listening to the Resilience Catalyst Show. I'm Joyce Odidison, your host. Stay tuned for our next episode and a great conversation on how we can measure, map, and build resilience so we can have a more fulfilling and powerful life. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Joyce.